On August 27, 79 AD, the town of Pompeii was buried under lava and ash when Mount Vesuvius erupted. Thousands perished in the destruction. But the eruption also preserved Pompeii, guaranteeing its immortality. And in the 250 years since its rediscovery, people have flocked here, seeking an experience of its extraordinary past. Right from the start, the story isn't quite what we expect. The eruption wasn't the first time Pompeii suffered a terrible natural disaster. 17 years earlier, the town had been hit by a devastating earthquake.
There was devastation throughout the city. One wants to compare it to modern disasters to get some sort of a handle on what it was like. And frequently I compare it to the Great Fire in London in 1666, which caused great damage, but also provided opportunities and requirements to recover.
The earthquake could be seen as a catalyst for some things which we wouldn't normally see. So we might see more of some of the tensions of the town. In a way, an earthquake presents opportunity for social mobility. It's an opportunity for a town as much as a tragedy. Some people get richer, some people are devastated by it.
This is the story of Pompeii in its final years, of the dynamic and ruthless society that emerged in the wake of the earthquake. It's a society whose characters and voices we can conjure up by drawing on archaeological analysis and on a variety of contemporary sources. Fragments of memoirs and court records survive, as does a wealth of literature and satire from the time. The story of Pompeii in these years exposes all the fault lines of Roman society. The old order started to crumble. There was new money and power in town, a shake-up of the ruling class. Fortunes were rapidly won and lost. It was a world of uncertainty, subterfuge, scandal. In the social fabric of Pompeii, there were three distinct levels. At the top was the aristocratic elite, and at the bottom were the slaves. But the most dynamic and ambitious people were the freedmen, former slaves set free to make their own way in the world. They did this brazenly, and often with such success that they posed a threat to their superiors.
The wealthy freedman is the stock type, and of course our best instance of this is the freedman in Petronius' satire, Trimalchio, who is brilliantly displayed as vulgar, way over the top, archy millionaire showing off, and absolutely shameless. To what degree this kind of caricature shows that the people writing it are feeling threatened by vulgar millionaire freedmen, I don't know, but it's pretty obvious.
The patriarch's authority was reinforced by everyday routines and rituals, and reflected clearly in his surroundings. The villas of Pompeii are like stage sets designed to display this power to anyone who ventured inside. They are subtle and complex little worlds.
Well, the house of the Menander is a private house, but look at its scale. It's an enormous, grand statement of power. The man who lives here is really trying to impress people and say who he is socially. This central room, the atrium, is a barn of a room, going up 2 stories, occupying the heart of the house, and it's meant to be like a public space. It's meant to pull people in, attract their admiration, their wonder. And then here's another room here, a side room with rich decoration, with mythological scenes. Here's the fall of Troy. This shows the culture of the owner, the rich red paint displaying his wealth. And look at the architectural details. 2 big columns mark the entrance to that grand room up there. But you haven't just got columns there, you've got columns in the decoration on the wall. And you're evoking the world of public life, the world of great basilicas and porticos and so on. Why evoke that world? Because it's almost a public activity that's going on here. These visitors are coming to see the great man in his house.
There is a frustrating lack of evidence about individuals' experiences of slavery. Even the houses are designed to make their slave inhabitants invisible.
The back of the House of the Menander, the architecture is set up to distract our attention. We're not meant to look round the corner here, because here is the invisible part of the activity of the house. We've got the slave quarters here, and you're suddenly into a completely different world. The fine decoration falls away. We're into a narrow passageway. It's all very crude. The plaster is crude. Dark rooms on either side. Complete contrast to the world of the other side. Here's a set of amphorae, of wine containers that have actually been gathered from elsewhere in the house. Little dark rooms, and then down this very narrow corridor, you can see there are rooms up above too, but little rooms down here which are either for some practical purpose or rooms in which the slaves can sleep.
As long as the Roman Empire was expanding, each new conquest could be relied upon to open up a fresh supply of slaves. At the time of Pompeii's destruction, there were between 2 and 3 million slaves in Italy. Their role may have been significant, but they were completely without formal rights and status, entirely dependent on the whims of their masters. Pompeii, like other Roman towns, was governed principally by 2 senior magistrates and 2 junior ones, alongside a town council of elite notables. There were annual elections for the magistrates and strict wealth and status requirements for holding office.
They were individuals who were wealthy, who did not receive any pay for their work. On the contrary, it was a responsibility of leading magistrates to pay for repairs in the city, for new buildings, for giving of games in the amphitheater, and to spend their money in a kind of public largesse in order to beautify the city and to entertain the individuals. So holding office was a status activity, and it was one in which the office holder was a kind of grander patron than just to one's clients, but a patron to the entire city.
Attitudes to sexual license have special meaning in Pompeii, where the public display of erotica appears so striking.
You find erotic paintings all around Pompeii, and one conclusion you're tempted to draw is that it's a sort of sexual free-for-all, that they don't mind what you put up on the wall where. In fact, there are very strong conventions. Every type of painting has its proper position, and erotic paintings belong in erotic contexts.
I think that the erotica in an elite household would not be seen as kinky or pornographic. I think it would be seen as witty and charming, and probably referring to another realm than the simply physical.
In the House of the Vetii, we have a splendid figure who's weighing his phallus in a scales against a bag of money at the door. And it's very important to remember that that isn't an erotic painting. A big phallus is a big good luck sign, and there is no embarrassment about that.
The abundance of these images has contributed to a popular picture of Pompeii as a den of depravity, teeming with brothels and vice. A Victorian myth arose that it was the climate of sexual immorality that led to the town's final destruction. But Pompeii was not a special case. As in other Roman towns, sex was integral to society, but it was not out of control. Prostitution was part of the daily reality of the town, strongly identified with slavery. All prostitutes, female and male, were slaves. Brothel keepers and pimps were their masters.